Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. So many familiar faces and new ones. Jonathan, thanks a lot for that intro. Sounded a little bit like a dating app. It's great to be here, and it's great to have the opportunity to talk about the global context in branded residences. Okay, so very briefly, for those who haven't come across GBR, we're a specialist consultancy firm working across the world with offices in the UK, across Europe, and now in Singapore and in Dubai. We look after and help developers and investors who want to build branded residences, want to understand how to do it in the most optimal, efficient, and profitable way. So we help out with product definition and pricing, and we help out with brand selection and negotiation, bringing the best brands to the best projects. And we'd love to hear from as many of you as possible. Do come and say hello. So I'm going to be talking about branded residences at a global level. What's the big picture? Bill's going to go on to then talk a deeper dive into Asia Pacific. So at the moment, there's about 1,700 branded residences that are either completed or in the pipeline. And what's very exciting, as we've already heard, is that, so in terms of the complete projects, there's 788, but just in the next 5 to 6 years, another 900, over 900 projects are going to be delivered around the world. So we're going to see this market size double in just the next 5 to 6 years. And bearing in mind that it is a approximately 100-year-old industry, it's pretty mind-blowing to think that what's taken 100 years to build is going to be built again and more in just the next 5 to 6 years. And what does that look like? As you can see, it's almost a vertical growth rate. We've seen 261% growth over the past 10 years, 155% just in the past 5 years, and we're looking at about 208% growth over the next 5 years. So really exciting time of global expansion, adoption of the model by the development community, and really a greater understanding of the benefits for all the stakeholders. Okay, there's going to be lots of stats, bear with me, but there are sort of stories behind all of these. So here we've got the regional distribution of branded residences, and we split that out, traditionally speaking, into three categories: the completed projects, the pipeline projects, and then the total projects, combining those two data sets. So what we can see is that North America is the leader of the sector at the moment when we take into account purely completed projects. So they're in there at 34%. That's followed by Asia Pacific at 24%. And then you've got the Caribbean and Latin America, the Middle East and North Africa, and Europe, all sort of level pegging around sort of 12 to 15%. So that's the picture of the market today. When we look at the pipeline of projects, which for us in the consultancy business is super important, we want to understand what's coming forward, what's going to happen, so that we can anticipate those requirements both geographically and physically for our clients. We can see a lot of change. The first thing that you'll note is that North America has only got 14% of the global pipeline over the forecast period. As I say, that's about 5 to 6 years' time from now. And the really big growth markets are the Caribbean and Latin America, Middle East and North Africa. So emerging markets where the impact of branding is very strong, and you can see very significant premiums, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Asia Pacific staying there at about 22 to 25% in terms of the pipeline. And what's interesting is when we combine those two data sets and we look at what's going on in the total projects. So this is what the market should look like, short of new signings over the next 5 to 6 years. And what we can see is a real shift change, a balancing out and a greater homogenization of the market, with North America and Asia Pacific actually on equal terms for the first time ever. It's the first time that North America has been knocked off or challenged for that top spot as a region. So it's a super exciting time for Asia Pacific, but also a very exciting time and a huge amount of growth in the other markets that we talked about. So we then see those three following markets rising up to 17 to 20% of the market going forward. Okay, so let's look at the top countries around the world. And again, we can see that the United States and the United Arab Emirates stay in those top two positions, both completed, pipeline, and total projects. You can see that the United States has a really, really significant dominance in the market, which is unlikely to change as an individual country for the foreseeable future. In the completed projects, I've just highlighted the Asia-Pacific destinations, and there's really good representation in the completed projects in Asia-Pacific. As we said, it's the second biggest market now and is due to be the equal biggest market going forward. So you've got Thailand, China, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam, all there in the top 10 completed. When we go over to the pipeline projects, we can see that India, Thailand, and Vietnam still have very strong pipelines. And in fact, Vietnam, probably the most impressive pipeline in the region. The likes of Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt are really big growth markets for branded residences, and they will shift that top 10. They will shift that market segmentation. And then we can see that in the total project. So we've still got Thailand up there at the top in terms of Asia-Pacific performance. India and China join that top 10, along with Vietnam, who raises up from, as you can see here, 10th position up to 5th position. So a phenomenal rate of growth and profile growth for Vietnam. So then when we come down to city level, again, we can see a really strong representation from Asia-Pacific in the cities. The top 3 cities, when I first started working in branded residences, which was a while ago, it was the other way around. It was New York City, then it was Miami, and then it was Dubai in terms of that top 3. Today, that order has been flipped on its head. So Dubai is the #1 market, followed by Miami and New York, and that stays the same when we look at what's going to be the case in the future. And we can see, as I said, strong representation for Asia-Pacific in the completed. When we come over to the pipeline, we see some movement. So for the first time, Phuket overtakes Bangkok in terms of its pipeline. And you can see going forward, Phuket takes over from Bangkok for the first time in terms of completed and pipeline projects put together. We've got some new Asia-Pacific entrants coming into the market. So in particular, Halong, Bali, and Hoi An. So again, that Vietnamese focus. And then when we finish up, we see that, as I said, Bangkok drops in the order, Phuket comes up, but we have some really established and sophisticated markets through Miami, Dubai, New York, London in there. So who are the main players? We've touched on it in the main. Much like, I suppose, Dubai, Marriott sits up there, up at the top with just a very impressive completed and pipeline tally. That's been the case since 2002 when they merged with Starwood Hotels and are, head and shoulders the leaders by number of projects. But being followed up by Accor in the hotel world, for sure the second major player in the sector, and probably one of the operators who are leaning in the most in terms of branded residences, owner services, and the platforms and innovations around that. Then you're followed by some familiar and very powerful players in Four Seasons, Hilton, Banyan Group, IHG. So what you can see is that in the majority, the pipeline of projects that these hotel groups have far outstrip their current stock, which is just a very clear sign of growth and focus on the industry. In the non-hotel world, we have you, who are again the sort of head and shoulders leaders in that sector, followed by the likes of Pininfarina, the Trump Organization, which actually used to be the front runner in the year 2000, and unlike many of the others, has a much greater existing stock compared to its pipeline. Top individual brands, I'm just going to stop on this quickly because I appreciate we're slightly running out of time. So Four Seasons and Ritz-Carlton in the hotel world are really the two main players that swap sometimes every year. Four Seasons is at the top and then Ritz-Carlton, then Four Seasons and Ritz-Carlton. But really they are the two main players. in the hotel world. And as you can see, the U sub-brands, U inspired by Philippe Starck and U Studio, coming in up at the top there. You will have access to these slides. Please feel free to have a look at them in more detail when you'd like. Okay, we're going to look at a couple of trends just to finish. So chain scale variance, whether we're looking at luxury versus upscale. And what you can see is that generally speaking, this is a luxury game. It will stay a luxury game going forward and for the foreseeable future. But you are seeing some market share being taken by upscale, upper mid-scale, and mid-scale, all growing by a couple of percent in terms of the pipeline and then into the total projects. So you can count on it pretty much staying luxury, but I think, especially in places like Asia Pacific, upscale and upscale are really interesting markets that can be deployed into locations that perhaps can't sustain a luxury solution. Okay, so development context here and development types. So we can again see that urban projects make up the majority of the market, pretty much equal with resort projects, and then urban resorts in the middle, obviously a key market for Asia Pacific and destinations across the world. Then finally, integrated, co-located, and standalone. So just, again, super quick on definitions. When we say integrated, we have the residences and the hotel in the same building. Co-located is when they're on the same master plan or the same site, but potentially in different buildings. And of course, standalone, where you don't have a hotel element to it, even though it may be branded by a hotel brand. Standalone is by far the biggest grower in that sector and a segment to really watch. And when I talk to operators around the world, let them know that it's really a segment that you have to focus on if you want to keep going in the sector. Final slide, but often, or usually, the first question that our clients ask us, how much more money are we going to make by going branded versus non-branded? And it all really depends on context. In an urban context where you have sophisticated, amenitized buildings next door that are not branded, that premium gets tighter, 24%. Now, 24% is still a very high premium, and this is based on brand premium studies that are done by my firm, GBR. Urban resort, where you have lifestyle and urban uses in the same place. It could be a beach with a city, for example. That premium goes up to 41%. In resort locations, you see the highest premium. Why? Because they're often isolated. They're in their own sub-markets. And so that calculation, that comparison against non-branded yields the highest results. So globally, when we put the whole data set together, the average premium globally is 43%, but that also includes what we would consider some outliers. So that's brand premiums over 200%, which definitely do happen, and also brand premiums below minus 25%. So when we take those two out, we end up with a global adjusted premium of 37% for going branded. Thank you very much. It's lovely to see you all, and I look forward to talking to many of you more later on.